Good morning, dear friends. May the light of Jesus be with us, bringing the Christ pieces to each of us so we can expand our ability to understand a little bit more peace. And we are going to start looking the viewpoint that in order for us to have a peace in our heart, how important is the connection with God, how important is for us to surrender to our Father's will, and the actions in our life. So just by looking at this slide, I'm going to ask you who feels that it can increase a little bit of peace in your heart. It's everybody's, right? All right. And we are going to talk, the subject of our talk, it comes from a message from this book. Unfortunately, it's not translated in English. It's The Path of Peace. This book is messages that is received by the Good Spirits in the Mediumship Group that is in the Spirit Center in Brazil. And of course, all the messages from the Good Spirit, they talk about the gospel. So the ingredients of peace is from the gospel. Okay? So the first question I'm going to ask you guys to contemplate these slides and see what takes our peace away. When you look at this slide, have a look what resonates in your heart. When you have conflict, do you feel that takes your peace away? When you experience fear, anxiety, when you lose your job, when you're sick, when you're running to pay the bills on time, or when we are locked in resentment or we have a broken heart, do you feel that that takes your peace away? And many of us has developed a way of looking at peace through that perspective. Many times we are in a conflict with our husband and we feel, God, I don't have a peace because of that. But that gives us a very limited viewpoint. Because when we look at that, something outside can take our peace away. And when we cannot change what's happening outside, guess what? We feel hopeless, right? And how many times we feel hopeless in situations that we are experiencing and we are not able to change? So, looking peace through that perspective is looking peace under the veil of illusion. And so many of us, including me, try so hard to change something outside in order to have more peace. Who is with me on here? Right? So many times I try and I exhaust myself and end up feeling discouraged, hopeless. But the good news is there are other ways, and that's what we're going to talk about it. Let's look through a different perspective. What prevents us from building peace, our peace? Every time we face difficulties and the way we face them, we collect information about how fertile the soil of our heart is. And that gives a completely different perspective about peace. Many times we have situations that are so hard, so hard. But sometimes we handle them in a very successful way. And we don't get devastated by it, we don't get distressed, we just overcome and move on. And when we cannot, that's a lot of information for us. I give an example, what happened recently with the hurricane. The media make a big thing out of it, right? Some of us went insane. Some have a heart attack and had a nervous breakdown, got in totally panic. But some people listened, did what they were supposed to do and continued on. The difference of how we handle the difficulties that present in life has a lot to do how fertile the soil of our heart is, what means how much we have the gospel in our heart. How much we allowed the lessons of Jesus really penetrate our soul and start to translate in our actions. So that gives us a lot of information, the way we bring peace and build the peace in our life. And that's what we are going to talk about it. And so many times we experience things that devastate us. And we try so hard to change there. But when we collect the information, what I need to build inside of me to overcome these difficulties, there are more great possibility that we experience the turmoil with a little bit more peace in our heart. And that's the studied information we want to bring to you. Create that resilience that we can pass through life, through those hurricanes, without being devastated. And the good news, the gospel is here to help us, and we are going to look how. So let's look at the same situation, the same slide, and see what prevents us from building our peace. When we are in a conflict and experience that turmoil in a relationship that is creating a lot of conflict in our life, when we ask what is preventing us to create peace here, that collect information, how you are handling your relationship, how much the lessons of the gospel you are able to put in place to dissolve that conflict. So when we started this movement, we started to look in the situations in our life as an immortal being. As an immortal being that is here to learn, to dissolve all those difficulties, and dissolve in a way, in a more peaceful way, each of us can create. So there is a shift that is happening, because before looking, oh, you took my peace away, that child that is having so many problems is keeping us from sleep, that sometimes is so difficult. When we have the attention all outside, we feel hopeless, discouraged. But when there is this shift as an immortal being, look at the same situation, but now instead of having all our attention outside, looking in here, what do I need to do to build the peace in here? What is lacking, or what is the lesson? So the immortal being, instead of feeling victim of the situations that is outside that we have no control, we become more an observer what is happening and collect information. What do we need to transform, and how can we assess the lessons from the gospel to empower us? And that's a great stepstone for us to create our peace. So when we have a conflict, the gospel is very specific, especially in the family situation. When we go to the gospel, the doctrine educates us. What is the purpose of the children in our life? How to guide us when a child has difficulties. So many times we have children that is so ungrateful and create a situation. When we go to the gospel and we learn, we get more information how to handle. The doctrine is very specific, how to create the reconciliation with people that we are in conflict with. The lessons of Jesus says, reconcile with your enemy, and educate us in the steps that can help us understand what's happening. The same way when we look at fear, because when we are looking only outside in this veil of illusion, and the fear can get big, and how we handle fear is going to make a complete difference. Because when I look as an observer, why I'm experiencing this fear, I have more chance to unfold the lesson that this fear is helping me to look at. When I try to change what is creating fear on me and I do not succeed, that can end up in an attack of panic if you go in an extreme volume, right? So all the way we face the difficulties, when we have the ability to bring that attention and look here as an observer, as an immortal being, we are going to start looking, how am I handling money? Am I going 24/7 to acquire material things, or I put the money as service to create a peaceful life for us. And many times, if we are not present with this observer, we go 24/7 working at cost in our own health and use the money afterwards to fix our health that was deteriorated by this lack of observation, what is really important for us to build our peace. So all this is an invitation for us to see what are the steps we need to take in order to build and maintain our peace. In every situation is an opportunity for us to create a fertile soil for the roots of the gospel entering our soul. Everybody is familiar with the parable of the soul, right? When the seeds of the gospel, the lessons of Jesus in the road, any wind, any bird can eat it away. When it's in the stones, does not have much foundation for the roots to grow. When it grows with the thorns, that is our imperfection, can taken away. But when the seeds slide in the fertile soil, really deepens the roots and start creating the fruits. So all these situations is an opportunity for us to check how is our soul, how is the soil in our heart, how much I'm allowed and I'm studying, I'm learning the lessons to create these stepstones, and that's make a completely difference. And in all that, we are going to understand that all the difficulties that we are experiencing, it is an opportunity for us to unfold our next step in our spiritual evolution. So all those situations going to happen to us many times because we don't have the tools to handle. We go in this very illusion of everything is okay, and create kind of a false peace. But underneath is boiling. All the stress and the fears and that's kind of boiling. And we are very good in distracting ourselves for not to pay attention. But having the empowerment of the lessons of Jesus, we have the courage because we have the tools to confront and unfold these lessons to truly eliminate what is underneath is kind of bubbling. Do you know what I'm talking about? We have something but kind of, I don't know how to handle it. Let's not rock the boat, let me be here. So I'm gonna do whatever I need to do in order not to pay attention what's truly happening. It's a defensive mechanism that all of us, I believe, in some moment created. But the more and more we are empowered by the lessons, we have the tools, we have the understanding of this observer that is more prepared to collect the tools from the gospel for us to dissolve what is keeping us from creating the peace that we all deserve to have. So, here we are going to bring the ingredients from that message from the mentors. To have a connection with God, we needed the prayer and the silence. For us to learn to surrender to our Father's will, we needed to have an understanding and acceptance. And the action, the faith is coming place and the work in the service. So peace is a result, is an effect, the cause of which is a permanent use of the ingredients mentioned above. It's like cooking a cake. We need all the ingredients in the balance, so the cake is delicious, we can enjoy. So the prayer and the silence. And the mentors and also the gospel educate us that the prayer is in our thoughts. The power of our thoughts. It's not the amount of words we say. It does not depend where we are, but depends how much focus in our thoughts, in our feelings we put in place. When we do a fervent prayer, goes a long way. So prayer, when it's fervent, predisposes the spirit to absorb the force that vibrate with the infinite power, keeping harmony of the universe. So God also wants us to absorb all this amazing power there is that creates the universe in harmony. And the way for us to get in touch and be in the flow of this power is through the prayers. And it's through the prayer that the man obtains the assistance of the good spirits, who come running to sustain him in his good resolutions and inspire wholesome ideas. In this manner, he acquires the moral strength necessary to be able to surmount all difficulties and come back to the straight and narrow path, should he at any time stray from it. By this means, he can also turn away from himself all the evil which he attracts through his faults. And it's a reminder that through prayer we get all the assistance of the good spirits to help us in those situations that we need to look at that is preventing us from creating, building our peace. So this is like an arsenal of help that is available to us, and we forget. We forget that through the power of prayer, there is an army of God that are right there to fight with you the good combat that's going to help us in the stepstones of creating our peace. Many times when we get discouraged, immersed in difficulties and anxiety and fear, we are forgetting that there are many soldiers to fight with us the good fight. We forget. So it's a reminder that all the assistance we need is right there, available to us. We just need to grab it. And they give us all the help we need to have in order to overcome. And that itself helps us to dissolve a lot of difficulties in our life. The silence. The inner silence expanded the spiritual energies, unfolded the outer circumstance in serenity. The noises and tumults distract the thought that must be connected in the high goal of communion with our Father. When the spirit is stunned by the tumult, discernment is confused, and the mental and emotional components shift from the attention that must be given to the essential to the benefit of secondary acquisition, ours incapable of calming the heart. That is the other aspect, the silence. We kind of forgetting that the silence is so important for us, because so many information is available to us. It's so busy, the time is going so fast. But we are forgetting that it's so important for us to quiet ourselves. So the prayer is our connection with God. But it's through the silence that we hear the voices back. And the connection is there. The answer is there. But if we don't quiet ourselves, it gets very, very hard for us to listen. Our intuition, to listen the voice of our Father. In these hectic days, it is necessary that silence is sought to renew the intimacy landscaping, pacifying ourselves, seek silence and attain it. Create the habit of immersing yourself in faith, and the clarity of the Word of God is speaking to your heart. Do not postpone the luminous experience initiating as soon as possible. We forget in the middle of our stress and fears, when we are in the midst of a confusion, not to know what to do, is the time to silence. We act in the opposite. We go listen to 300 talks, read many books, so we want the answer here now. We get anxious to resolve the problems, right? We do that. But sometimes it's just required for us to silence a little bit, because the good spirits are there. They want to give us intuition. They want to transmit God's word to our heart. Require us to learn how to bathe ourselves in this calmness that is offering for us. Aspect that is very important in the building the peace in our life. Learning to renew our energy. So it's like in the morning, wake up, Our hair is like this, we need to brush our teeth, take a shower, put a perfume, and goes to life very graceful. Everybody comes to the center in a very graceful way. I notice, everybody looks beautiful. But sometimes we forget to do that with our spirit. Our spirit is busy, is crowded, is in fear, is anxious. We need to have a bath to calm and to clean the energy, to be able to get ourselves in the connection with our Father so we can listen. It's very important. That is our smell, spiritual smell, that we need to pacify in ourselves, because that's the way it's translating to. The second part, the other part, to surrender to our Father will. This part is so hard for us, because many times we want what we want, and we want it now. We are in a hurry, aren't we? Life is going fast, and we want answers very quick. And sometimes what we want is not what is necessary for us. God knows what's best for us. We don't. Because many times the choice we think, this is the ideal for me, it is not. So when we learn to understand and accepting what's happening, we learn to surrender to our Father's will. And that will create a wonderful flow in our life, because God orchestrates our life in so much expanded way. He knows so much better about us. And many times we want to change things that we have been creating for a long time. Then we see, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to change this imperfection. And we want to hear now. And many times we don't understand how the laws work. And we force. So the aspect of accepting and understanding creates us an ability to surrender and allowing God to drive the part that is up to Him to drive. We give up the will all the time. How many times we are there, like that in the will, trying to manifest everything and it does not happen, forcing a solution that's not happening. So understanding the mistakes and difficulties of others overcome all the conflicts, because more we go in the movement to understand and accepting what's happening, more we have the ability also to respect what's happening with others. And acceptance is the root of humility, simplifies everything. Because in the acceptance, we take a little bit our pride away. Not all of it, because we don't know how to do that well yet. But in the acceptance, it is creating a room for humility, for us to see something that when we are holding like here, we are not seeing. And when we have an understanding, the lessons of the gospel, the Jesus lesson, you have an understanding that all difficulties that is happening, it is what needs to happen for us to learn what we need to learn for the next step. It creates a flow. And many times we forget the difficulties we experience in the conflicts, that difficult mother, that difficult child, that difficult husband, that lack of money. All those things that is happening right there, it is what we need to learn. We forgot that our incarnation was planned. We actually asked those lessons to come to our life because we are convinced that we could overcome them. Or they are our mentors kind of help us to choose a little, kind of impose, because, okay, let's get real here. You need to learn this, But we were prepared. Everything that is happening is because we are prepared. Because in God's mercifulness, He doesn't allow us to see what we are not capable of handling. And that's the good news. If you're seeing, it's because we can overcome. When we have the understanding of the trials, when you go to the gospel and you study, blessed are the afflicted. And understanding the purpose of the affliction in our life, the present afflictions or the causes of the afflictions from the past. Understanding that we are the sum of ourselves. There is no victim, and we are just experiencing the consequence of our choices. We have more understanding. Because then I had to stop blaming you because I don't have peace because of you. We take a responsibility, and that allowed us to relax and accept with the confidence the gospel is going to give us the strength to do the next thing. And we started looking all the difficulties as an experiment, the opportunities to experiment how to overcome this. And the constructive acceptance will always be perhaps more than half of the ingredients of the solution to any problem that distracts you. Protect your home against disturbance and disharmony, but if your action has no effect, then accept the house in which you live as a school of regeneration and love. Revolt is a pitfall delay in any organization. Embrace your difficulties when you cannot distinguish them, healing them little by little under the effort of your serene energy. And that's the way we overcome. It do not allow the amount of anxiety to distress us with the certainty that everything that I'm doing, I'm accepting what is happening with a constructive energy to improve ourselves, to improve the circumstances we experience. In just that is half of the amount of the suffering in a way. A lot of our suffering comes from the resistance to experience the lesson that is there. Sometimes we have a situation we need to integrate and learn from, but we resisted, and we know what we resist persists, right? And if that situation would take 5 minutes to experience and 10 minutes to learn the lesson, by resistance sometimes it takes 5 months and tons of energy. And when we learn, I say, wow, I suffer much more resistance and experience it. Because when the situation is experienced, integrated, it dissolves the suffering. We embrace it because the acceptance has the power to dissolve that resistance that keep us in the veil of illusion, that keeping us from not taking responsibility. So the invitation is for us to embrace our struggle with the confidence that we have the tools to overcome. So we understand, because what we do not understand is very hard to accept, isn't it? We way past our blind faith that we can say, do it just because I said so, right? We need to understand the laws, how it works, so we can accept and we can embrace the lessons. Another part of the ingredients of the peace is the faith and work. Faith overcomes fears. Work frees the mind from useless ideas that they weaken the spirit, bringing it many anxieties. This is the part that we learn in the gospel through faith, real fruitful faith, faith that shakes the fibers of the heart, faith that moves the mountain. Faith, divine inspiration of God, awakens all noble instincts that lead the good man in paths of regeneration. Faith to be profitable must be active. That's the force that is an investment of our immortal being that's going to help us. It's going to help us to overcome many difficulties. To have faith in God is to keep in the heart a luminous certainty that our Father exists and does not leave any of His children helpless. A conviction that goes beyond the scope of simple religious belief. Achieving faith is the possibility of no longer saying I believe, but rather I know, with all the values of reason touched by the light of feeling. This faith is not stagnant in any circumstance of life and knows to Allah's work, intensify the amplitude of His illumination by pain, the responsibility, by effort and duty fulfilled. how important it is for us to study the gospel in this part of the faith so we can understand that God is always here for us and He wants us to succeed. And when we know, reading our, inside of our heart, in the cells in our body, with all the force of our mind, that we are here to learn, and our God is providing a whole universe for us to learn. When we have this faith that we are loved, and He's protecting us, He's empowering us in any circumstance, shape and form, we are more empowered to embrace the lesson and transform. How important the faith is to keep our spirit, more spiritual, awake and engaged in the transformation that we are here to do. So this faith cannot be stagnant in any circumstance of life, especially in those moments that is difficult. That's when we need to embrace our faith. Not just believing, but knowing that you are not alone. And you are a divine being. And you are here because you are prepared to embrace that. That gives us strength. Translating assurance into God's assistance is express the confidence that knows how to face all the struggles and problems with divine light in the heart. Everything is possible to one who has faith. This was taught by Jesus, as we read in Mark 9:23, an affirmation that demonstrated the importance of faith in our lives and encourages us to do everything to conquer. Whoever has faith does not feel alone. It's a very, very simple slide, but in here is the root of our power. When we realize that with God's assistance, we can do everything. Everything is possible. And we don't feel alone. We are never alone. When we truly embrace that, we become the divine beings that we're meant to be. We become this force that nothing can stop us. And from that space, we are not more preoccupied with what is out there. We are not preoccupied in changing you and you. Because we have an understanding that you also is this immortal, powerful being. And God is in your side. So it is the end of the battle of what is out there getting me, from what is in here that is keeping me to be with everybody. It is a shift in consciousness so big. Everything is possible to one who has faith. That it helps us to become more aware of what's happening in here. Because many times we have our imperfections are so big that scares us to go and look at. That's why we have been incarnation after incarnation, looking outside and proving that you are my enemies. You are the one that keep me from having peace. How much time we spend blaming others for situations when it's our responsibility to look at. When we embrace these ingredients of peace, especially the faith, that is the force, the basic force of the immortal being, we are more courage to look at our shadows and embrace it. Because we understand that it's just an imperfection and mistakes from the past that I'm now more prepared to embrace. And when we do that, we start getting these little pieces of us that is outside and collected back, empower us. And this way, we are going to separate what is yours and what is mine. And most importantly, we are separating what is my area to do and active, created for me, and what is the part that I need to put in God's hand because it's out of my domain. When we do this movement, and faith is so important piece in this movement, because when we feel that we are not alone, that we are empowered by our Father, we are owning it, our divinity. And from that space, we create more resources within. In this space, we have more dignity because we start acting with more dignity. And with more dignity, I act through faith, understanding, acceptance. Owning my divinity, I'm starting respecting yours in separating what's mine and what is yours. It's such an important lesson for us to be healthy, for us to have successful stepstones in creating our peace. Separating. There is an American expression that I love and helped me so much. It's not my monkey. Have you heard that? What is not my, I need to take care of what's my monkey. If it's not my monkey, it's not my circus. I don't need to act on it. Learning to mind our own lessons. Allowing others to manage their lessons on their time, their way, between them and God. That's one of the secret stepstones to create more peace. And when we do that, we embrace more and more the lessons, because in these steps of acceptance and understanding comes patience and meekness. Blessed are the merciful, because we have more peace with us, we have more understanding, and consequently, I'm going to have more understanding with your mistakes. And I'm going to have more acceptance with your difficulties, because I know how hard it is to embrace mine. In this way, we create more peace. And many times, one look from this space, this peace created by these ingredients, can dissolve a lot of stress in your home. One look are more peaceful based on the faith that I'm not alone. God is with me. Can create a lot of peace in your work and here in the center, in the city. And that's the way we contribute for us to create the regeneration that is a vibration of love altogether. One more component of the peace is the work. And we brought this text from Moral Laws from Joana de Angelis, Blessing of Work. Under no circumstance do not permit the empty hour. Justifying tardiness, disillusionment, irritability or boredom, intimate despair, avoid falling into dismay that opens up a clear action of good, favoring the useless and inspiring pernicious ideas. Work is, alongside prayer, the most efficient antidote against evil, since incalculable values in which the Spirit corrects imperfections and discipline the will. What Joana de Angelis says here, do not permit the empty hour. How important it is for us to be aware, not to have this empty hour. What that means is when we know what we need to do things and we don't do it. It has nothing to do with the time we take responsibility to get our rest. That's not what she's talking about. The empty hour is that hour that we waste resisting. The way that we distract ourselves for not to be aware what we can be used in order to create the stepstones of our peace. That empty hours are useless. That when we finish, we are more tired. Because in our mind, we kind of know, we feel like kind of guilty because we know we should be doing something and we are avoiding. And that distracts us when we think we get into your rest, but you are not. Because distract us. And that favors useless, inspired, pernicious ideas. That empty hour is an open door, an invitation for negative influences in our home. And most importantly, when we do the work we need to do, we have the most efficient antidote against the wrongdoing. When we combine the work, the faith, the flow of the things that we know we are motivated to do, is we start correcting our imperfection. Most importantly, that discipline our will. Because a lot of the things that keeping us from creating our own peace is because our will is torment. And this work awakens our will and help us to have discipline. Because the whole shift from our immortal being that is outside and try to modify here is kind of insane idea. To try to change what's in here so I can be more peaceful. It's kind of insane because kind of does not work that way, isn't it? Because the proof is we try, and we don't have peace. A good example of this is Paul. He had everything. He had the money, he had the position, the power, the knowledge. He was a great man. But it disturbed him immensely because he didn't have peace that he saw in the eyes of the Christians. They had nothing. They were everything against them, but he could see in the eyes of those Christians they have peace. That get him infuriated because he could not feel that peace. But also that get him motivated to see what's going on here. So when we transform that, the work and the discipline of our will empower us to have that shift, that we are able to take the attention that is here and put our attention in the immortal being to see what in here I need to learn to free myself so I can create more peace for me. Requires discipline. How many times you say, no, I'm not going to bother with what they are doing, I'm going to mind my own business, but when you see you are right there, mixing the mix and creating more and more confusion. How many people experience that? Right? It's just me? Okay, I see some faces. It requires discipline for us to take our attention outside and mind here what is my responsibility. And the work along the prayer gives us that. So every moment wisely taken adds productivity to your sowing of hope. Work of a good origin in direction produce happiness and peace. The work, the investment that we do in the immortal being, the study, working, being productive, the feeling that you are building the steps to grow. That creates a lot of peace. And that's all of this is very important for us, because if we want a peace to build it on these foundations, how important is for us to participate in the study groups? How important for us to invest our time to study the gospel? The gospel is something that would be very beneficial for us to study a little bit every day. Highlight what it means in your heart. And most importantly, in your quietness, in your prayers. Allow that lesson, that tool, resonate in your heart so it will be available as a tool for you to use. Because many times we read it like this. Let me read next, let's read this next, let's read another one next. But we don't give ourselves time and quietness enough to allow that learning. Because if we look all the benefits, the tools that we need, the doctrine provides in the gospel, is in the Spirit's book. So having that understanding, when the life presents itself before us, we have the tools. The prayer, the silence, the understanding, acceptance, faith, and work. Those are the ingredients in that message that a good mentor offering us, reminding us the importance for us to study, understand, and most important, bring the gospel into our heart so it can be translated in our actions. In this way, we are going to act with more dignity. In this way, we are going to live in more abundant way. And that's what God wants for us. He wants us to live in abundance. And this is a gift for us to embrace what He offers for us. And that is the message of today. So I wish everybody make peace our home. So I'm open for any questions, if you want to have one. Or I pass along. Okay?
I understood and I saw, but I'm still a little confused on making faith active.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, when you start studying the gospel and you start to understand faith, you start believing. We start as believing God protect us. And when we put that in practice and allow yourself to be guided by God, you start feeling the guidance. And when you start feeling, you understand a little more. And you start creating more and more conviction. So continuing the conviction of actions, that creates more faith. Because faith is not something that, it is a seed that needs to be cultivated. The more you understand in Jesus' lesson and put in practice, you create more faith. So every time we're feeling alone, we are feeling that I have no worth, that shows your faith is dormant. The lessons is dormant. Because when you really honor that you're a child of God, that God assists you in every single moment, awakens your faith to trust that you can do it. Awake a faith and that trust is guiding you, and you allowed yourself to be guided by God. How many times you try to orchestrate a solution and it's just me, my thoughts self, I can do it kind of feeling? I've been there decades. I can do it. When I learned that no, I cannot do it, I surrender to my God's will, because He knows better what is best for us. And I surrender, and He orchestrates an answer even bigger than I could ever create. That increases my faith. That I work on my faith to surrender more and more, and not to resisting the lessons is there. Because many times God's going to say, no, now. And I need to learn that. Surrender to that. But I still have the faith that He's orchestrating a bigger answer for me. And many times God says, I thought you're never going to ask, and here, some more. And wow, that increased even more my faith. So that's the way I look at it. I don't know if that answers.
So like by basically learning more.
In practice, allowing the lessons to translate in your actions. Because sometimes people can say the gospel entirely by head, but it's not translating their actions. The more we translate in our actions, it's building stepping stones to our peace. It is allowing the gospel enter on you. Because if I'm desperate and feeling alone, I'm not connecting. I needed my prayers. I needed my silence. I'm lost. I'm out there. I'm not in here connecting with my Father. And the connection with our Father is a relationship number one that all of us needs to invest. So if I'm feeling separate in alone, feeling that, oh, I cannot, that's an information that you're not connecting with our Father. Because when we are truly connected with our Father, it is an immense amount of source, the only real source of love that we have. The true, unconditional love. When we are connected there, we are fed by His love. And from that, we learn to love ourselves a little more. And when we start loving ourselves a little more, we get in this abundant, fluent flux of divine abundance. We love more, and we accept the love more, and it's translating our actions a little more. And that's when we start getting loved a little more. It's like when you don't have a boyfriend, and nobody look at you. Then you have a boyfriend, you feel great, and then you get attention from many guys. No, it was not like that when you're a teenager. That's what's our relationship with God. If you're not feeling alone in any shape and form, it's an information that you are not connected with God, because He has an immense amount of love available for you. You just need to allow it to come to you. Create number one relationship, our relationship with our Father. And get from there the faith, the love that would translate in actions, surrender. You pray for God to give you the light in your thoughts. Bring the God of lights in your heart, in your intentions. And allow Him to put His light in our steps. This is faith. I don't know what's best for me, dear Lord. Illuminate my path so I can have discernment to take the best actions that is for me. Not what I want intellectually, my ego wants, but what you want me to do today. Show me and I will accept. That increases my faith. That you feel that He's right there with you, guiding you. That's the way we build our faith. Praxis, praxis, praxis.